We are live. Um, Welcome to our Thursday book launch. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. And I am so excited for a number of reasons to introduce you. If you don't already know Maria Nazos, then you are about to have a wonderful night. If you do already know her work and all the things that you've done, well, see, somebody already put a flaming heart. We know it's a good night. Maria and I met, I want to say maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, but I was struck by her compassion and her passion about poetry and words. And I thought, this is somebody who's on fire, not a slow burn, but this is a blaze. We're going to let somebody in on the chat section. On the waiting room because I don't want them to miss out before Maria starts reading. Multi-talented, a poet, a translator. Tonight we get to celebrate translation book. But in 2026, we get another book from Maria, and I'm putting in the chat section her website so you can go and visit if you don't already know her work. I know you'll be looking it up tonight. If you wanted a signed copy of this book or any of the other books she's published, you can reach out via social media. I also have a link to Small Press Distribution, which is a great place to buy our books from. So I'm going to do a brief introduction and then I'm turning it over because we want to celebrate tonight. She's calling tonight from, why did I just lose where you are in my head?
Okay.
Cold.
Nebraska.
There we go.
Very easy to lose.
Nebraska.
People don't even think it exists.
Yeah. There, and it's also having unseasonably warmer weather than just like we are in the Carolinas, but not quite 71. Maria grew up in Athens, Georgia, and also in Illinois. Her work
Greece.
has been published
I'm from
in Greece.
Greece.
Yeah, you're from Athens, right?
Yeah, yep.
And has been published in American Life and Poetry and elsewhere. Well, author of 4 books. Now, Pulse is the one that is coming out in 2026 from Omnidawn. The collection that we're celebrating tonight is the translated poems entitled The Slow Horizon That Breathes, World Poetry Books 2023. From the poet Dimitra and Kotoula. Also, 2 other books that Maria did. Still Life, which came out from Dancing Girl Press in 2016. And A Hymn That Meanders, which was 2011, Wising Up Press. Her work has appeared in renowned anthologies, including What Saves Us, Poems of Empathy and Outrage in the Age of Trump, which came out in 2020, and Unapologetic Anthology of Subversive Verse, which came out in 2017. I'm going to turn it right over. And Maria, I did say Athens. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to spotlight you, and I was putting you in Georgia. Thank you. So glad you're here.
Thank you so, so much for having me. Just all of these different graceful faces. This is really, really incredible. And I have a really soft spot in my heart for Malika because I was like just in such a rough spot. It had been like, I don't even know how many years, like a decade plus since I put a book out. And she just said some truly encouraging words to me. And obviously she has the magic touch because now it's not just one book of translations, but as she was saying, it's another. So thank you so much for your powerful vibes and for everyone else's, just for being with me along the way. Okay, so I'm going to read some translations in the house. And the first one, and as Malika had been saying, it's by the Greek poet Dimitra Kotoula. This one's titled Landscapes 1. It's an icy day. A lifeless wing of morning light hangs there mundane, stubborn. The smell of frost and the red leaves of the plane tree steaming. Fresh furrows of soggy, raw material, my hands held straight out before me, devout and servile, worn down by desire, sullied by the mud of self-indulgent nostalgia, gather their bearings, staying faithful to this light. I learn myself more clearly. I remember myself more clearly, beyond prediction or truth. The autumn smoke rises serenely. The forest of my troubled thought rustles above me. A sound fades red in my mouth. Close your eyes. Close your eyes well too. I, you, and this. A handful of grief is scattered across the sea. The sea is glorious, but we have no glory. Only our hands a couple now, white hands amid green, worn down by desire and sullied by the mud of self-indulgent nostalgia. Our borrowed hands live for a moment almost bright, then eclipsed. A small, violent army of regal frivolity. Only our hands a couple now, but without wings, wrapping and unwrapping promises, forcing back the decay. While we lie silently in the dark, looking at each other in the dark, while we hold each other silently, and the heart asks for nothing, for we are poor. It just breathes the rhythmical breath of its own relentless pounding. So that was one of many that, and I didn't know this until later. I thought it was about a relationship or a divorce, but I guess it's also about the Greek financial crisis. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that, and I don't know what you call, if you call a crisis what goes on for what, 8 years, maybe 10 years. It was like a long time thing. But she wrote a lot of poetry about that during that time, and she said it was a huge way to cope. Okay, this one is titled Blue. Not in the rapture of flames or the furor of beauty, but between death and dying, what was it glowing bitterly, and bitterly bound itself to the gazing eye? The profuse bleeding of a momentous blue. I want you to feel this blue, color of negation, utter devotion, and nothing else, and how it lived inside me all night long, the cruel agony for nothing else beyond this, and how it grew, spreading within me, becoming these words within me. I want you to feel this blue, color of loneliness and uncertainty and nothing else, while the air and earth inflame, a sudden blooming in the irate atmosphere, a swirling in the churning air that rests nowhere. I must tell you all about it. I must name this affair for you, since this night is that very color and that something eternal which we had forever lost inside it. Impossible to hear it any longer. Our language drifts us farther away from what we are. Every word another place, something that moves, eloquent and adept, more fervently than the blind eye. And nowhere among these words can we rest. And nowhere among these colors resides this blue. And nothing begins with its mere naming. Not even these words that I keep saying to you tonight, strangely emotional, drifted away by this blue, and how it has grown inside me, a tender, lavish power spreading from within. And these words could give you nothing but the pure contemplation of color. And these words could give you nothing but the volatile horizon where we refuse to believe that they have failed us. As if these words have never been. As if this blue never was. Thank you. Okay. And this next one, it's another one of those Greek financial crisis response poems. And it's titled Case Study 5 on Ethics. And you guys are awesome. Just thank you for everything. The swirling of the waves lulled us, lulled our language, making it frail. So frail. Almost a memory. We didn't read the why as a dark pitchfork, a path we must take, the S, a tunnel's mouth drawing near. The sound of God blaring his name in our native tongue won't wake us. We entered history as though it was a jubilee. Once it seemed we'd merge with the past, then we didn't. Imprisoned, with our minds gaping like traps. We suffered from what ailed us, made lyrics that could survive translation, and lost. If you don't turn to shine your light behind you, the shadows will always fall before you. The tip of the consonant drives its rumbling spike through paper. The chanting endures like a plow, turning the same exhumed soil over and over. There is no mystery here. Blinded by the aspalathus thorns and the hairpins of history, we didn't see the deafening signals that persisted, turning with the crippling nostalgia for what? And a voracious gaze. We created a god, a dos ex machina, who didn't save us. There is no mystery here. You didn't keep the lyra tuned as you were taught. And this one is, thank you, is in one of the mood series of poems. We did a lot of series. Our talks kept us late into the middle of the night. We are in shadows, around us, objects, all those small familiar things that bound us, animated with peace. Recite their names, chair, table, crock. The soul, it asks, for nothing anymore. I mull over the great loves, springtime, like a rhythmically heaving chest. Your face pressed against the window, and the window, a strange plant dancing in the rain. The firs steam in the mist of their sleep. Wind hovers over the stars. Drowsy colonies of moss burn side by side in silence. How is the night so dark if the sky is lurking, if right outside the moon and this earth's mystical life? The eyes of wild animals take in your taste. Your lips are chilled and the dawn will come like snow flooding down from a purple cloud. Okay. And this one is Escape or the Words. She has only to wait. They will find her. streaming over her like delicate fingers that outlasted the weight, exhausting the density between pauses until time becomes space again, inner space, until she can listen to the garden, work quietly again. Meanwhile, they ripple the air and are gone, exposing her brutally to the birds singing, tormenting the atmosphere in long, creeping strokes. Imagine them in eternal walkabout against the symbolic or the beautiful, beyond that which hesitates or awaits in anticipation, studies in incarnation. They have their own way to pain her. They have their own way to leave. Each time more stubborn and more intimate. They abandon her. I watch. They flood their absence and leave. They grant her silence and leave, as if something beyond their roots is calling for them, something fated, more sheltered than the low relief of springtime sea, that has always been, or rather was. The dew will gather like grapes, and she won't be there. Cold rain will light the night. It is important to entrust everything to this flight, to let them mercifully finish their work. A page full of words is a page drowned in ragweed. Fiery leaves of elms shimmer. Tiny, bright red screens against my window pane. We know nothing about the ending. We cannot see through to the end. We cannot see beyond it. Okay. Thank you, thank you. So one of the other things that she does a lot of is she likes to channel the Greek famous historical poets. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with Kavafi, but this is a poem about how it was that he had to repress his sexuality as a gay man, and he's reminiscing and thinking about a lover of his. And he's trying not to remember the lover at the same time. So this one is titled Kavafi Tries to Forget. And there's a little epigraph I read that I think is pretty cool. From time, all these things are very old. The sketch and the ship and the afternoon. A momentary sensation of something unforgettable. A drunkenness from the present word, entering the mind's rapture and the murmuring stream of his lover's hands, already on his body. The sea is too far away for him to fetch it here now. And the relaxed air of afternoon just holds whatever he sees, what he so casually sees, without images. Passion, or maybe something not quite, renews desire. Remnants of silence settle in the room, the empty air in that square room, creating silence, and he wonders if he is indeed here where he resides. The high so worthless, the beauty, clear thought of other times. Sometimes, what could have been said if there were words strong enough. He seems to be reminiscing again of those long summer afternoons when thought, having returned for a while, seems to withdraw. The youth unclasps his hair, banishes memory, face dampened by laughter, with bite marks yet from the light beneath the flesh. And he wonders if he truly resides here, where he is, in this passionate piece of time that is usually called body, your body, while he resists incessant versions of this poem, within it already what? This very thought of something, nothing, not strong enough, that still recants. The narrow row of trees outside his window, the deafeningly blue sky, and the drawing, all that he tries to deny without reason, the source of his love. Look, it smiles at him already, the ultimate masterpiece, and its slightest ripple can free him, and its slightest ripple can retrieve from inside him, within syllables of blood that torment his temples, a little joy, scattered stars. Okay, thank you everyone. Malika, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're coming up on the end. I'm terrible at timing myself, but I think we're getting there.
You're
Let me,
doing great. You have plenty of time, and I am writing down questions now because I thank you so much. So keep going.
absolutely
You were
awesome.
good.
Okay, so let's see here. So this is part of her Phrastic series, and this is the body of dead Christ in the tomb. And fun fact, if you look it up, it is seriously creepy. It's like this really weird oil on wood carving, and I guess, oh my gosh, one of the Russian novelists like saw it. I mean, he stood there and he saw it in person, and I guess he began convulsing and like had to get literally like hauled out of the actual museum itself. I want to say it was Dostoevsky, but I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, for sure, look it up. Anyway, this is the body of dead Christ in the tomb. It smells of soft, fresh rot. From afar, you can't make out the line of eyelid, the knot of him breathing inside the black lips. The face almost grazes the wet stone. He sees exactly what he should. I cannot tell what he truly sees. Above ground, flowers made of fresh air and others too delicate to be named earthly beings blossom in the air, protecting the human God from his mortal flesh. I notice the hand hesitates, the finger dead yet anxious. They know when flesh grows into knowledge, what the lips of hushed desire whisper to his pristine, silk-covered sex. And you, aren't you a perfect, perfect being, made of logic, born of truth? It's not you who begins here, in the upper left corner of the page, without the memory of any touch, having crossed drowsy lands in darkness, stolen words, laughter, prayers, laments, a whiteness with no light. While this pen has lodged itself, is this the end? Into your days. While the rain settles, is this the end of it? Inside your body. You, free of hurried constraints, carefully erasing every single mark left behind, having doubted or not, erred, having let this happen, created. Red lights up the flower of your thought upon thinking. Having created well enough, who is it that will say that this dead Christ here? Again, put the alphabet in order, begin again. New words replace the old words each morning, wrenching privacy from eternity. The dense morning air floods the grass with caresses. The fear, because, and with this thought, an uneasy tenderness writhes inside you. Fear holds you. It is not real. Greedy, the gaze coils through successive slants of light, and with all itself against it. Remember, You're only the outline for this design. This language was made to protect you. Besides, where, if truth is not spoken here, else? In a moment of elusive clarity, where else would you turn your gaze? You bend to shuffle flowers in vases for the dead. Your mouth now filled with ash. You try to remember how you could ever manage with such shiny things. Turn your gaze, whisper something, and, inexplicably blissful, get carried away by the rhythm of decay. For you cannot dance to this static beat. And now that I think about it, I realize that getting carried away is possibly Dostoevsky or somebody. Because I feel like they literally had to drag him away, and it's just like now making that connection for me. Let's see, I will, if it is okay with you, Malika, I will read one more. Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, let's see here. Let's read. Let's read this one. This is Moods 10. It's another one of the Moods poems. Oh, thank you, Jen. I'm kind of looking at the chats here and there, and I really appreciate all of you. Moods 10. Okay. And the epigraph is, the melancholy seeped into me. I drip poetry. Just for the record, I love Dimitra's work, but for anyone who knows me, it's funny, I'm not as serious like at all. Like, I'm sure that you all got that from me. And it's so funny because her poems are very like melancholy and kind of like darker and serious. And yeah, it's fun channeling that. Tonight I am excited. The sharp logic of this thankless and demanding art for once holds off. Come. We could, if you wish, walk together through long museum halls, in love with their own statues. Survey the piercing doubt of the master's brushstroke. Below the soaked cloth, the marble, a wild surface prepared for drawing. We could surely, if you like, make a little music. It will be treasured and carefree. It will rise ever so slowly, but always with a trusted square measure of even 4-time beats. Come, do not deny me. Besides, what will it cost? Bring along this moment and this page, this moment here on this page, my only asset. Call them off. For tonight, faithful to the virtue of tears, in a time of cynical confessions, I can, worthy and triumphant for once, and only this once, defend you. Thank you, everyone.
Smokes. Maria, that was just a gorgeous reading. And people, y'all can unmute. We can spend a moment just saying thank you.
That was fantastic.
I love,
Thank you.
yeah, just love how you inhabit these poems. And I know other people have questions, but since I get to host this, I get to ask one that really occurred to me, as you were saying, this is very different. People who know my work, who know me, know that, these translations, this poet writes from a very different place. There's like heavy, heavy topics, a lot of melancholy. And, I wanted to bring up a couple of things. You started this 10 years ago, right? Okay. So I kind of wanted to hear like, did you visit and come back? I mean, clearly you developed such an intimate relationship with these poems and with this. I think all of us hearing you read them really see your passion. And I saw a quote where you wrote, enter and leave translated poems, the poems, as solid American English versions that preserve their original intent. I think that is such a ambitious thing as a translator and as a poet. But you did it, and I can feel that connection you feel with the work. So can you kind of talk about like how you started this and how you got from 10 years ago to now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kind of to our earlier conversation of Malika, when I was telling you that, at least in my own career, I think some people are just like bam, bam, bam. They turn over a book like every 3 to 4 years, something like that. I'm more of an accumulator, I guess you could say. Maybe I'm like a psychic hoarder or something like that. But I also am obsessive. So when I start something, I won't finish until I've worked it through to the bitter end. So what originally happened was I was a PhD student and I was in my second semester at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And I just finished studying as like doing a one-to-one with Ted Kooser, the former US Poet Laureate. At the time, he was solely teaching one-on-one classes, which I thought was really cool because his whole thing was, hey, in real life, usually one other person reads your work. So let's do that. And another person, I mean, I adore Ted, and I consider him a grandfather of sorts, and I call him that to his face. But that's another person who I don't have a ton of aesthetic overlap with, which is precisely why I think we work together so unexpectedly well. And it was Ted who initially suggested, after my second semester, I was like, I want to do an independent study with you again, Ted, because I love you, and as does everybody. And he's like, okay, why don't you try some translations? And I was like, oh man, that's for like, I mean, in my mind, I was like, that's for scholars and smart people. That sounds really hard. A PhD program is hard enough. Like, I wanted to study with you and write more of my poems. And what blossomed from there, maybe blossomed is too flowery of a word, but what birthed from there was Ted put me in touch with A.E. Stallings, the poet who lives in Greece, and said, hey, can you recommend a younger Greek woman poet for Maria? Because, hey, you know what? I love Ritsos and Kavafi and everybody, but we don't really have any like women, younger poets in translation, like at all. I can name Kiki Demula, who is from the previous generation, but that's about it. So anyway, so that one semester, I just kept doing it. And I just like kept finding different generous professors to do the independent study. And the next thing I knew, like Dimitra and I had this relationship where it was the weirdest thing. Despite not having a ton of aesthetic overlap, we just started to like get each other. Like I guarantee that if you put a poem of hers in front of me, I'll know what she means in all of her weird, awesome, cryptic ways. And yeah, I don't know how that somehow took the 5 years of my PhD, and I just kept going. And then the next thing I know, I had a book. And as I say this to you right now, I say it in disbelief because I'm like, wow, I still can't believe it was 10 years because it both moved slowly and it moved quickly. But yeah, I mean, the next logical thing to do is if you've got like 80 pages and they've all been published in awesome journals, like why not put a book together? And so that is what happened. And that is the truncated version. But yeah, I mean, it overtakes you. It's a ton of work. I met up with her in Greece. That was really cool. And yeah, for anybody wanting to do translations, it is a very, very creative act, but it's also overtaking. So if you're an obsessive personality like me, it's highly recommended, but just expect not to do your laundry or focus on your own creative work for a while.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and Elizabeth, you wrote in there, do you know the poet Olga Bromas?
Yep. I mean, I know of her. Yeah. Yeah, she's really lovely. I think I wrote to her once and I was whining about something I couldn't write in any personal statement about translation. I don't know. Either way, she's wonderful as a poet and a person, and she was very reaffirming. I think I was a grad student at the time, and she gave me some very good advice about how to write a personal statement for a grant. So I 2 thumbs up. She's awesome.
Awesome. And how did you find a publisher for this book?
Well, the same way I find all of them, through a lot of rejections. And then also, but at the same time, fewer so than in poetry, because I really, really wanted us to go the best possible route. And in my mind, at least in our industry, which can be so weird and random, as I know that everyone here knows, and who gets published, who gets accepted, who all of it, it's just like, it is so confusing, and I try not to think about it too much because I want to stay sane. But point being, I had told myself, and Dimitra had agreed, that if we found a press, it would be the best possible, most well-distributed one. So we took our time. For a while there, we divided up segments of the poems into chapbooks. We tried shopping it around as chapbooks. We tried different things, but then we kind of paused and came back to it. And again, like I said, like I tried to be picky. And wonderfully speaking, World Poetry, we had already been familiar with them because they published translators of all kinds. And that was a really, really wonderful surprise when that happened, and it happened so quickly. And I believe that the way we found them was through a translator named Peter Constantine, who is at the University of Connecticut. And World Poetry Books is in part also run from the University of Connecticut. And so that's how all that came together. And yeah, I mean, even though nobody asked me for advice, my biggest recommendation would be, when shopping for any press, but especially translations, which are starting to become burgeoning, but they aren't yet as saturated, aim super high, because there are some awesome presses that really want to bring international voices to light.
That's awesome. I know other people have questions, so we're pretty relaxed here. Feel free to just unmute and yell them out. I think I think Elizabeth put it this way: it's what a beautiful relationship with the work. It was lovely, and I'm trying. There was the phrasing, yeah, beautiful relationship with these translations. I think all of us really felt that, Maria, and it's just so amazing. I was looking forward to this because I had met you and knew it would be amazing. I don't think I understood how much so, and how to life you could bring these poems. It was an honor to be here and see it.
Thank you. Well, it's an honor to be hosted by you. And like I
Oh
said,
yeah, and I did say I think I said Georgia instead of Greece, guys. My brain is definitely offline. So so can we talk about that? Because Maria, you grew up um in the mother tongue, but was that still something that you had to revisit? How did you approach that?
yeah. So, well, Greek is a weird language for me, because when I went there, I went to an American school, and my mother being, she's of Greek heritage, but she wasn't as very much American. My father is as Greek as they come. He's a sea captain. So generally speaking, between school and then also communicating at home, it's the weirdest thing. I am fluent in Greek. It takes me a while to get going and to get back into that headspace, but I have a total American accent, which makes me subject to a lot of probably well-deserved teasing from any Greek friends. They're like, "You suck." I'm like, I know. Wait, my people also don't hold back. Mediterraneans are not known for the decorum. And but point being, it was weird because I initially came to the poems and I used Google Translate at times, but then eventually, because it had been like 10 years since I had been back at that time, but then suddenly it's like the imaginative rig got oiled. It's like or to use a different metaphor, like the hamster and like the rusty wheel started going around again. And I was like, okay, I got this. But it's the weirdest relationship ever to language, because when I visit a Greek friend who lives in Paris, we will speak in Greek together, and she'll go in and out of Greek and French, and I understand everything she's saying, even though I don't understand French. But my mind has to slow down to take a minute to remember the words. So imagine 10 years of that. I think it burned a lot of calories to be able to do that, and to kind of like trick my brain into remembering what it is I'd lost.
Thank you for that. Somebody just wrote something that I think is probably something that, attracted me to you. But she said, Maria brings this life to everything she touches, and there is no exception to that rule here. I've been looking forward to this. Thank you for that, Emily. That is so beautifully said.
Emily's pretty awesome. She's one of my students
That's awesome.
and friends whom I've known for 20 years.
I loved hearing about that relationship with the language and how you were saying now if you put, a previously unseen, untranslated poem of Dimitra's in front of you, that you would understand the intent, that you would know, you would feel that. And I think that's that deep relationship that you've built with this poet.
Absolutely. And it's to the point where even like in her emails, she's like, how did you know I was feeling that? I'm like, because I could feel it. I'm like, come on now. You've like been a part of my life. Like you've been like whispering through my DNA for the last 10 years. I've been inside of your head. I've embodied your psyche. I've like channeled you like a medium. Like, yes, I know how you feel. I know what you're thinking. I know what's going to set you off. I know what makes you happy. It's yeah, it's a really weird, special, intimate thing. It's a relationship like any other, and it's even weirder as it like articulated aloud to you.
Oh, I just want to leave that right there. Susan, jump in. Yes, if you have a question, unmute.
Oh, I wondered, is she going to translate, or did she translate one of your books?
No, that's a great point you make. She has translated though, gosh, I'm trying to think. She's translated a lot of American poets. She's translated Joy Graham. God help her. She's translated Louise Gluck, another one who would be so challenging to, to render into the English language. Like, don't get me wrong, like Louise Gluck was and is like a deceptively like lyrical poet, but that would be so hard to do. So short answer, no. And long answer, like, that would be really awesome. And it's never occurred to me to ask her, and I should.
It's a great idea, Susan, and I hope you do it, Maria. That would be fascinating to maybe feature y'all back together reading off of those translations. Oh, I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put that into the universe. Okay, let's take a moment to
Yeah,
send that out
well,
there.
Love it. Your universal requests, Malika, they get answered. I tell you what, I've known you for
Well,
2 years.
today's also a full moon, the first one of 2024, so I'm putting it out there. We get to have Maria and Dimitra back here for a translation of new books. I like it. Take a moment to send that out. Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts or something that you want to say? Yeah.
Yeah,
I am. Go ahead, jump in.
I had a related question actually I put in the chat. Sarah Thilikiou translated one of my poems into Greek and placed it in a Greek journal. And I wonder if you know her, and she's the kind of person that might be nice to work with because she does translate. And I know that a lot of translators, there's a couple, I've forgotten their names. The man is that the husband is Cuban and the wife is American. And she translates, she's a Spanish scholar and translates his work. And he says that it's changed his writing in Spanish when they work together to translate his stuff, that he actually changes the Spanish language work to fit better, and just in general, it's affected him. Anyway, I just thought Sarah might be someone that you might find some simpatico with.
Yeah, I would love that. I'll also have to ask Dimitra if she knows her because, okay, yeah, so she lives in Greece right now. Is that right? She lives in
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think she's in Thessalonica.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I will definitely follow up with that one. Her name does sound familiar.
Yeah, there are two links there that I put. One is has a little bio and some of her work in Beltway Quarterly, and the other is a link to the translation. So you'll be able to judge for yourself whether you feel that the translation is good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, this is so, I definitely, sorry. I'm like looking at it right now as we speak.
Yeah, I was just saying, Don, I'm actually reposting it because I don't think I think there was so many other comments, I lost track of that. But I'm reposting that because that's very cool. And I think you also brought up an important question. Um, did you find your work changing, or did it impact it in a way that you can articulate, being
No,
so intimate with her work?
no. I suspect that most translation happens in a very disconnected way, not really in a corroborative way where one person picks up another's poetry and just translates it. And I've gone over the translation, but I don't know enough to really tell whether it's good or not. But that's why I'm looking for the name of that couple, because they're a wonderful power of example.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don. Susan, jump in.
Well, Maria, do you find your work changing? Do you look at I don't know the structure of her poems, but do you find you realize, oh wow, this is like this is like Dimitri's work?
Unfortunately not. That would be awesome if it was. And that's strange, right? Because one of the things that I've encouraged my students to do in the past, and one of the things that has really transformed my work, is I do love to take some of my favorite poets' work into my own hands. And what I mean is I will literally transcribe it, I'll handwrite it, I'll copy it. I found that there is no better way of learning than anthologizing. And that makes it even all the more ironic, Susan, because I'm like, well, why wouldn't I then? Like, why wouldn't Dimitra's work, like over a 10-year period, influence mine more? I'm not sure why. Because in those moments, like I said, it overtook me. And I mean, my best guess is maybe that's why. Maybe, I don't know. I've never been that good at compartmentalizing though, so that doesn't make any sense. So now, like, it's a wonderful question, and it's one that I don't necessarily know the answer to. Um, yeah, because I can't write a lyrical poem to save my life. Like I just can't. Um, and so, but I do think maybe it's because I was operating in those silos. Perhaps I was doing those translations where my brain went was, okay, and this is hers, this is Dimitra time, and this is you translator time, and it's about rendering her work. So it's possible that I was removed then from my own and any kinds of limitations that would manifest.
Love that question, and fascinated by the answer. Fascinated because I think it's something about how you perceive translation. So almost like you're a flute and something's running through you rather than, you know, there seems to be the sense of channeling, how you described it before, which would mean not picking up pieces and not maybe impacted. That's fascinating to me. Let's take a moment to just say thank you, Maria, so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was my honor, and thank you so much, Malika, and everybody for this. Everyone's so warm. I'm absolutely floored.
This is you can see why it's the highlight of my week, of my existence, because it's such a great group.
Yeah.
And we get to celebrate with some of the, poets that I totally fangirl over, like you, who just, bring, I think there's something. So that was another quote of yours that I took. I have to say, I put it in the chat section because you said something about the belief of poetry, and watch me not be able to find that quote, but it was something so optimistic and beautiful about poetry. I'll
Oh,
come back. Oh, yeah, this was
yeah.
it. Art can accomplish goals of moral unity across oceans, languages, and centuries, and it does every day. It's one of the reasons I just love your spirit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a terminal optimist. I'll see
Love
a
it.
doctor in the morning. I don't know if I have a lot of reason to be. Maybe it's like a survival mechanism, but I do believe that. I really do. Otherwise, why would we be doing it, you know?
Agreed.
I have to just, as Emily, I just have to put a plug in. Maria is just one of the most incredible. Like, if you think this translation work is incredible, her teaching in these classes that I have started to, she's got me writing poetry again, but it is extraordinary. That eternal optimism is there and she infuses it. It's a highlight of my week.
I feel you, Emily. And actually, Maria, would you, because you do have a newsletter, if people wanted to sign up for your newsletter or get involved in some of the workshops, if they go to your website that I have in the chat section, or could you write something into the chat section so people can connect to some of
Yeah.
those opportunities? Because you send out a lot of information that's, gets
Yes.
people involved and
Absolutely.
connected and inspired. Speaking of inspiration, we will head into open mic, and rather than spotlighting people, I'm just going to have you unmute. We'll start with Cal.
Okay. All right. This poem is called Free Lunch. A small person drives fast alone down Route 64, shiny white Tahoe, masticating industrial cow, Star Trek headphone, talking with daycare. South Namibian farm wife counts her cow's ribs, raises maize. Iowa feels poison. America far away. Flood is coming. Some Pacific waters heat or cool. Did or will some global climatic effect, she imagines. Dust blows now. An old trucker told me rule number one, gravity always works. So he said, make it work for you. The famous physicist said, the universe is the ultimate free lunch, meaning its start, big piston bang, and that only due to impossibility of knowing. Oh, I pushed the wrong button. I'm sorry about that. The famous physicist said the universe is the ultimate free lunch, and meaning its start, big piston bang, and that only due to impossibility of knowing what it came from and where it ends up going to, how it does that. Planets, finite eddies get to exist. A few billion years of balance seem to oppose the flow of everything apart. Matter forms and gathers and persists in little anomalies for short times. Dust. Some global effect, we imagine. Top of the tall heap in the high seat on the pedestal, getting our gold medal kernel. We're geniuses at balance. We made it all work for us. But if I know anything, I know what's top heavy falls down. Here, there is no free lunch. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Cal. Yeah, there's a couple of things in the chat section that stuck with me. Thank you, Cal.
Okay.
Gina? Yay.
Hi, everyone. So this poem is inspired, I guess, by the poem of our featured reader that referenced blue. So this poem is entitled Blue. Epigram. The color blue indicates a temperature even hotter than white. Blue flames usually appear at a temperature between 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit and 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The poet said, she said, grief is not the only geography I know. And my heart thumped loudly in affirmation and sorrow and fear, for I can plot clouds that hang dark and black and low, whose water cannot quench the blue flames of this fire, bluest despair, bluest depravity, driven by derision and exclusion and death. The bluest eye scorches outward and deep to find the flaw in poverty and pain, and it glories as it sees no promise running wild across a loveless terrain. This bluest burning orb rotates inward to its God and offers sacrifice. I know well the land charted as chasms ever widening, swallowing dreams. I know well the land blackened blue from the unchecked flaming of self-anointed authority, for in this land, the brilliance of sky and the cool of sea have no say, and layers peel away, incinerated into nothingness as we burn inside, outside, embodied in horror. This is the land on which I live. I am brought here to stand atop, to add to the mounting mourning of ashes and darkened, weary bones. Thank you.
Oh, Regina. Thank you. Yep, we are on fire again tonight. Christy, if you can unmute and let me pause. Hang on. We're back again. If anybody does want it not recorded, please let me know. And okay, so go back to okay.
In the beginning, we in America wake to the horror, 1,200 dead, 200 abducted, Israel poised to destroy as God did to Sodom. We swear never forget or free Palestine or some other such meme of the moment. Babel, the towers at city center in flames, smoke and harbor stench billowing silver in the sun. And so it goes on and on. We care as we watch on TV, but we live in an orchard, figs and cedar, fresh bread and warm shade, clean work and time stretching to the evening cool. The innocence and righteous of Israel and Gaza may as well have died with Lot's nameless wife, killed by God for caring, because he never did, even for his own. So why should we? We in America may as well have lived as imbeciles in Eden, where knowledge was forbidden, when hate and humanity were new.
Hate and humanity were new. Thank you, Dawn. Holy smoke. Awesome. We have one last one. Susan, trying to see if I can find you. Is Susan still here? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. Go ahead,
This-
jump in.
This was published in by Tiny Wren Anthology, The Half-Life of Echoes, Poems About the Power and Fragility of Memories. And it's called The Leggy Grasses. Each minute counts, so long to reach the pear trees. It has been all of 15 minutes. I thought was shelved away, disappeared. A ditch outlines the field. Barbed wire, blackberries, hawthorn, rose hips, hares. I fell there more than once, all along in the back of my mind. It did not matter, just the ditch.
Oh, Susan, that is haunting and beautiful. Wow. Whew. Once again, and Karen, I'm going to take a moment and just say, we want you to have light. I think Maria already put in there, let there be light for Karen. So we're going to hope that it comes soon so you're not cold. Thank you. Yeah, I'm already cold. It came on twice about 10 minutes ago, and I was so excited. And then it went pop, pop, pop in the neighborhood and went back out. So, and then I called back Duke Power. Now there's 100 more people without power. So somebody messed
Wow.
up.
So Karen, you know what
It's
life
not going well.
with hope is.
It
Where
is
are
not
you
going
at?
well.
Oh,
I'm in Chatham County in the middle of North Carolina. There's no weather. We're not having any weather.
nothing.
It's
Yeah.
just it's the one line
Weird.
run into the neighborhood. Yeah.
She said that there's a tree limb she suspects, and she's
Yes.
going to shimmy up it and pull it off the line herself.
Yeah.
I think we have to talk her down.
Thank you for the good thoughts.
Power? How long have you
It-
been out of power?
It went out 15 minutes before the Zoom started.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna break out my solar charger in a minute and charge my phone back up because it's about to die because it's been running my computer tonight. So
My goodness. Yeah, she's used a hotspot, so we're gonna just spend a moment saying, Karen, lights, lights, lights. And then we've got Maria and Dimitra that were saying dual translation party.
yes, that.
Thank you guys once again for being here today and celebrating with Maria. And Maria, thank you for coming and, just such a passionate reading. I really enjoy the way you inhabited the work and your presence. And everybody that was here, that shared and was here for open mic or here in community, thank you. May you be well.
Like,
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much. It was awesome.